Hello and welcome on our YouTube channel. This is part 3 of our series on how to make leather boxes like the medieval ones that we can find in museums. In part 1 we discussed the sources, in part 2 we discussed how they were made, and now I will show you my own build. I will give you the pros and the cons of my design so you can improve on it when you will make your own box. So let's get right to it. What was the process that I used to make my own? So first, the idea. The idea is something, I think if you're doing reenactment yourself, first thing is just find your needs. What need do you have for each item? Why do you want to do this item? If you have a book, maybe you want a case to be able to transport this book. But that's probably how I would begin. Think about what you need for your equipment and then begin to build it. This way you have a motivation and it's way easier to do everything. We had those needles and those pins and we needed some way to transport them, and that's why I made this little box. And so the first thing I did afterwards was to research my sources. I looked for sources in 3 different languages, English, French and German. And I tried to keep the best pictures, best quality, the most interesting, but I tried not to omit all the boxes which looked a bit deformed or a bit broken, which looked ugly. I didn't do only very academic research. I went on YouTube because that's a thing, that's where you find people doing stuff. 2 other people did already boxes on that, and I will put the links down below. There is Morgan Donner, who made very amazing videos on the box that she made. And there is also Barry Hicks that Morgan Donner spoke about in her own video. To create this box, I could also rely on my experience from other sources like shoes, purses, belts, scabbards. All those sources of different places and different objects can really help. You can rely on the different stamps that you saw in the past, or the different ways people were sewing, or the types of material. I must admit that what I'm using is modern. I'm using modern tools, I'm using modern dyes, I'm using modern glue. For the tools, so all the tools I'm using at the moment are modern and not really accurate reproductions of medieval ones. I used a leaf shape stamp which is not historical. It's the same shape that you can find in manuscript, and it's used also in leather crafting, but this shape is normally cut and not stamped. I used a circle shape, which is not exactly the one that I showed you before. There is not a circle with a hole in the middle, although you can see in this picture that I own both kinds of circle. Those stamps were made by hand, so this to a degree make it more believable. The other things that I used in my build is of course the leather. This leather is tanned the modern way with a vegetal tan. It's close from a medieval one, and I sew it with the linen. The linen was waxed into a big bowl of wax that I have of beeswax, so at least the beeswax is accurate. The linen itself, I know that the new process, the modern process for linen is not as good as the old one, because the old one kept some kind of wax on the linen which made the medieval linen stronger, and it would resist better to the friction. For the thread outside, I made it with linen as well. I know I spoke about the silk that they would use, but at the time I didn't have a closer look at those threads, and this one was easily available at my place, so that's the one that I used. But maybe I should have looked closer at the sources that I had and used the silk one instead. Another thing is the glue. The glue that I use obviously is not a medieval glue. I didn't use the glue from bone, I didn't use the glue from skin, or from the fish bones. What I used is the PVA glue. The PVA glue is also a water-based glue, like the medieval glues, but it doesn't react exactly the same way. But I will definitively research it more. I already purchased some and I need to use it, I need to try it, and I want to record it, so you will have a better idea of the comparison between PVA glue and those kind of glue. Something that I would like to remind you if you're trying this build is that the PVA glue, when you put it on a surface of leather, it makes it impermeable. So afterwards, you can't dye it anymore. It's not possible. So you must be very clean when you're making the gluing of the layers of leather. So the glue will not be on a place which will be visible afterwards and that you want to dye. Otherwise, it will ruin it. You will have a nice spot which will be with the original color of your leather. Now the dye. The dye, it's modern one. It's alcohol-based modern dye. So if you want to make a more accurate thing, maybe you can research it. I had a bit of a look a while ago, but I couldn't find easy way to make dye or to obtain it. I will try to research it more in the future. Maybe I just didn't search in the good place. So that's something which is not historical either. So you see, my build is a mix between like very researched and also some inaccuracies. And I must be very conscious when I'm speaking about it that it's not like 100% how it would look like. It was a bit different all the time. The process is the same for any kind of craft, even if you're doing woodcraft, if you're doing anything. Maybe you will end up with something which will be closer from the reality than if you did it just on a whim. And that's it. That's the end of my series on leather cases. And if you want to see a bit more, I have a bonus video coming very soon for you. I received recently this book, which is amazing, and there is a whole chapter speaking about leather cases from Netherlands. They are a little bit different from the one that I show you here, but I will discuss in this bonus video the conclusions from the author and compare them to the conclusions that I made myself on the finds that I put in the whole series here. So I hope you will stay tuned. You can subscribe, like the video, and follow us on all the social media down below. See you soon.